and want to thank everyone for participating and taking time out of your day. Today we're going to touch up on some of the best practices that you can utilize when you're implementing SAP BPC. We have a great individual here that's going to walk you through as far as best practices and do's and don'ts. But before we get started, just to give you a little bit more information on our company, Sierra Infosys was actually founded in 2002. We're headquartered in Houston, Texas, and we have global operations including U.S., Canada, Malaysia, as well as other parts of the world. And we have over 300 employees globally serving various accounts in certain industries. Some of our primary industries that we've focused in include public sector, utilities, manufacturing, oil and gas, retail, just to kind of name a few. And we have a various and strong partnership with SAP. We can provide end-to-end solutions, whether it's implementations, customizations, staffing, augmentation, or even post-production support. We have a very flexible model for you and your organization. And today we actually have an individual that's been in the SAP space for over 10 years, actually, and he's one of the thought leaders when it comes to SAP BPC, and he's going to kind of walk you through some of the do's and don'ts in terms of your SAP BPC implementation. And we have here today Prasad. And Prasad, are you on the line?
Tim?
Yep. Great.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and pass it on to you.
Thank you, Tim. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. Welcome to our presentation on SAP Business Planning and Consolidation. So let's take a look at what is there ahead of us today, the agenda. I would like to do some intro about SAP BPC for the benefit of newcomers to SAP BPC, like SAP Business Object EPM portfolio and utilization of SAP BPC tool. And then we can take a dive into implementation of BPC projects, some tips, some lessons learned we want to share with you, like what is the execution approach, some design aspects, and some general considerations. And most importantly, I also want to cover the reporting part of it and some pre-built dashboards, which would neatly sit on top of SAP BPC, and we have a lot of functionality built in, pre-built in for that, so that you can easily use it as an accelerated way. Okay, please come and take a look at SAP Business Objects portfolio with SAP applications. First, although for some of you it is a repetition, just let's take a look at the picture and see where SAP BPC sits. And Enterprise Performance Suite is the place where SAP BPC is, and it's on top of the whole picture. So this is very, very important in addition to your strategy management, profitability analysis, spend analytics, and you have SAP BO consolidation also available. But the most important thing is SAP BPC, and I cannot stress more about the performance tools, especially when the technology and business techniques have entered a new era and the competition is cutthroat. So the tools would make you more sophisticated and ready. SAP BPC is a loosely coupled, very flexible, nimble tool which could be integrated, and you could use it for both operational reporting and also management reporting. It's a wonderful tool. So SAP BPC Business Objects portfolio is a very rich offering from SAP. And the next thing what we want to see is, what does SAP BPC do for us? Probably most of you already know, but I just wanted to let you know that SAP BPC, you can do planning, forecasting, and also business, financial consolidations or any other management consolidations or legal consolidations. And you can do the financial reporting, analytics. The beauty of this product is that it has both the planning and forecast and consolidation pieces, including the reporting, in one tool itself. when compared to its predecessors like SEM, BPS, BCS, integrated planning. And also, even when you compare SAP BPC with other competitors like Cognos or Hyperion, SAP BP is much more integrated, much more easier, and both the planning and consolidation in one piece, where you have a lot of synergies and cost savings. So these are the things that we should be aware of. I mean, most of you already know, but I just wanted to cover it anyway. So the next thing is, you want to do implementation consideration. You want to do the BPC project, and you want to wonder what are the considerations that you should have. You see, if you look at SAP's work, thanks to their good work actually, many of you must have been exposed to a lot of literature in SAP BPC. See, these documents, videos deal mostly with what BPC can do for you. They do a good job in explaining that. But there is a gap. The gap is what the customer should do to implement and exploit BPC fully in an optimized way and techno-commercially very attractive. So this is the gap we wanted to address over and above what SAP gives you and help your BPC implementations go successful. Make it simpler, easier change management, and cost savings as well. So in the next few slides, let's try to cover that, and we'll try to do our best. So once again, welcome to our presentation on SAP BPC implementation considerations. Okay, just wanted to take you through the implementation consideration in general. For better organization of the approach, we divided the learning into three major categories: data modeling, application design, user interface design. In addition, of course, we want to just take a look at what is the execution approach, what is a better execution approach, what are the general considerations. So let's take a look. Execution approach. What we have seen traditionally in SAP projects, that the approach is more serial in terms of the stages of the project, like design, development, testing, migration. They go in a serial way. But what we have seen, especially with SAP BPC, it's always better to have a parallel approach, parallel phases running with incremental deliveries from each of the phases continuously. So what we have seen is this method is nimble, flexible, helps in managing expectations. You wouldn't, get into surprises. And it's less burdensome for the client resources to get the knowledge transfer and also to do testing and get a bang for the buck. So, and also it gives you a lot of clarity in the design, because you're also seeing something develop while you're designing. So you know where you're going. So it's a very good approach. Instead of the serial approach traditionally followed, we would always recommend that we go to this agile methodology, we call it, this flavor. So it's always better. So coming back, in any BPC implementation, what we thought is there are three major blocks. One is how you model the data that comes in and out of BPC. And second thing is the application design. So what you want to build and how you want to build, what you want to achieve, that's the mechanics of the SAP BPC implementation. And the next thing is the user interface. User interface is like reporting, your input sheets, and dashboards and all that stuff. These are the three things that we would basically take care of in any SAP BPC implementation. So we wanted to deal with each of it separately. For example, data modeling considerations. We always say that, have clarity on what you want to achieve so that you can identify the source cubes. You want a detailed source cube or an aggregated source cube. Because SAP BPC is more of a supervisory system, we would always recommend to use aggregate cubes instead of C10, GL line item data. You would probably go to C30 or C40, depends on what you want. And also, remember that you don't have to store all the details in SAP BPC, because you can always do a drill through for getting the detailed report, and it's very seamless. It's very easy to configure. So it's always better you deal with the aggregated data in BPC and achieve your results. And if you want, you can always drill through to the details in another system, or either it is a BW query within BPC, some other system, or even SAP transactions. Everything is possible. So make sure that you don't overload the system unnecessarily. And consider the data loads, schedules, deltas, and implement alerts. Suppose if it fails, what should happen, and make sure that you have emails or whatever configured in that process change. And many of the implementations fail because of difficulty in reconciling the data. So make sure you do a lot of staging so that you have control and you have an audit on what is happening in terms of data. So it's always better that you take those steps and make sure you stage the data properly and you load it. And the second thing is pre-processing of data. You can always do the ETL stuff within SAP BPC, but we would always recommend, especially in the NetWeaver implementations, transformations and conversions be done right at the BW layer. Because you already have BW resources, ABAP developers, and they have done so many transformations and conversions already. They can do much more efficiently and cheaper it would be, and also easier to maintain. So make a decision that I would do all the transformations and conversions at the BW layer, and then move on so that you have a clarity in how you're doing, rather than doing some in here, some in there, some in BPC, some in BW. That would create confusion, and also it would be costlier to maintain. Second thing, again, I want to say that because you're dealing with data and transformation, make sure that you build reconciliation of checkpoint reports always at every stage, and make sure that you reconcile the data. The biggest concern in BPC implementation is about the data quality. And many of the customers typically spend 25% of their project time in defining, cleansing, and reconciling the data. So if you are more disciplined right at the beginning, I would say that you would really save a lot of time and money. And second thing is, try to minimize the data movement out of BPC and bringing back within the process. I mean, you could always have interfaces going out. That's not a problem. But within the process, for example, we have seen with one of the customers is that they want to plan in BPC, send the data back into R3, and do the allocations and bring it back and do the reporting in BPC. You could do that. I mean, technically it is possible. But the problem is, within the process of planning and reporting, you have many moving parts which could go wrong. So I would rather say you replicate those rules into BPC, because BPC has a lot many allocation engines and allocation rules and logic you could have, and you rather would do the design with less number of moving parts rather than many moving parts. So these are some of the data modeling considerations that I would like to recommend. And let's move on to application design considerations. Again, I couldn't stress more about the clarity. Clearly identify the dimensions and properties. Don't get confused between dimensions that are the main fields and the properties that are informational or attributes that you could use in navigating the reports. So always make sure that what is important to you. Minimize the number of dimensions to around 14, 15 that we thought is more optimal in an application or model you build. So there are no real limits for properties, as many as you can have. And also what we would suggest is use data, organize the data into logical blocks. For example, you have the P&L planning you're doing, and you have the revenue piece is very elaborate, and also you have an OPEX piece very elaborate. And you have, make it into 3 different models where